Well, pleasant good morning, sports fans, and welcome to the PR Man and the Coach talking ball on the BallFather Podcast, presented by Sportskeeda. I'm Reggie Roberts, longtime NFL PR executive, and today we've got a special guest, very, very special guest. Normally we got Coach Mike Smith, but today we've got good friend, my friend TJ Rives, who's a 30-year radio and TV veteran based in Tampa Bay. TJ's been associated with the Buccaneers radio broadcast since 1999 and has been on the sideline for game broadcasts with Hall of Fame play-by-play man Gene Deckerhoff and 13-year former Bucs tight end Dave Moore for the past 18 years. TJ has been a friend. We've known each other since 1997, 1998. Been friends 25 years. You're in for a treat today, sports fans. Say hello to my good friend TJ Rives. What's up, brother, man?
Hey, listen, I have been looking forward to this because you and I, again, have known each other. Have we really known each other for 25 years? We have.
Yeah. Yes.
Before either one of us had kids. Your kids are now out of college, which is not allowed. But in all the conversations, you and I have had hundreds, if not 1,000 or more conversations about everything. You have never interviewed me. I have interviewed you, but now you're interviewing me. So this is a first. I don't know how to act. I'm like nervous sitting back for Double R. Am I going to have like the bright interrogation light on me where I get the truth serum about everything from Tom Brady to how my twins got named? I got Double R interviewing TJ. I would call Reggie all the time on, Reggie, can I get you on about this or that or whatever? Now I'm the interview subject. So I am anxious to do this. I'm thrilled to be here.
Hey man, you're very kind. This will be easy because, you know, we were as we were talking in our planning session this week to talk about how we could sort of talk about some of the key matchups and who would have the most insight, the best insight on what's going on in Tampa Bay. And I immediately thought of you because you live there, you're in the pulse, you've got a pulse on the team, you've been on the sideline for the last 18 years, including, by the way, I was in the car going to the Bucs Panthers game, and I was in with my girlfriend. We were talking. You know, we were so impressed with your work, with how in depth you are, how professional you are, and I always do that. But it's different when you hear friends on the radio doing their things. So just you're amazing at what you do, man.
Thank you. I think we've got a love fest going here on the interview. Let's just keep that train running. And I should say, people like you have always helped, coached me, guided me on what to ask, helped me get interviews, get good at it. So I give credit to Double R and those PR people that always seem to make our jobs and our lives easier. And you got to hear a winning locker room. See, winning locker rooms are fun, folks. Yeah. Winning locker rooms, everybody's happy. They're playing the music. Reggie heard the music in the background. They had clinched the division. I mean, that's easy. That's easy to go. Now go do a game where you've lost in crushing fashion in the final seconds and go stick a live microphone in front of people. Reggie knows where I'm coming from, where I would come up towards Derek Brooks or Warren Sapp and they're glaring at me, Double R. They are giving me the no wave off sign. Don't get near me with that microphone. So it does kind of ebb and flow as the guy doing the post-game show. There's been a lot more winning as of late in Tampa Bay. This is the third year in a row that the Buccaneers have been in the playoffs. The last time the Buccaneers were in the playoffs, at least 3 years in a row, they were in the playoffs 4 years in a row, and some guy named Reggie Roberts was behind the scenes in the PR when that was going on. So this is the first time since when you were around with the Buccaneers, 3 straight playoff years, my friend.
I'm so excited for him, but you know, we'll get in a little bit of that. We were talking about Brooks and Sapp. We'll get in a little bit of that here in a second. But let me just ask you this, just to sort of kind of kick things off. You know, you're walking around town, you're taking your twins to school. What's the buzz in town? What's going on in the practice field? What's happening in the locker room? Give us a sense of what's going on in Tampa Bay with this looming playoff game on Monday night.
So we're doing this interview days in advance of Monday night. It is electric already. I'm not overselling this. And by the way, can I just share on this show, for everybody that's going to hear it, I don't have tickets for Monday night. People are convinced that you and I are like Ticketmaster, Reggie, whenever these games come to town. I don't have tickets for the Cowboys and the Bucs. I'm just putting this out there. But I've had people hitting me up for tickets. People asking me, what do I think? People asking me, is this Brady's last game if they lose? Right. There is palpable anticipation here of what this is going to be. The only downside is we got to wait all the way till Monday night through the whole playoff weekend. Everybody's playing games on Saturday, 3 more on Sunday, and you wait all the way till Monday night here for this to be built up. But yes, everywhere you go, one of the biggest Buccaneer fans is the guy that cuts my lawn. Yes, I may be an elitist. I don't cut my own lawn. First, I'm bad at it. But the lawn guy was here yesterday, and he's bending my ear about a Cowboy pass rush versus Brady getting the ball out of his hand quick and whatever. There is a buzz. There is no doubt that there is a buzz for this game Monday night.
Just in keeping with that, yesterday I was walking around talking to some people, and someone was asking me, we were talking about it, and then somebody said, well, would you ever bet against Tom Brady, with him, with the playoff game, for probably the first time in his career that the team that he's quarterbacking are underdogs. What's your take on, does this game, because the Bucs I think the Bucs are underdogs, that gigantic chip that's on his shoulder, do you think that sort of shows up and has him sort of maybe galvanized and play the game of his life?
You bring up a great point. I don't know that he has been at home ever a playoff underdog in New England or Tampa Bay. Ever. So now you've got that out there, and who knows? It's a short line. Cowboys favored by 2 or 3. Will it move by Monday night? I don't know. But you bring up a great point. He's one of those guys that loves motivation from every which direction. He loves doubt. He loves to be motivated by doubt. Doubt that you can still play at 45 years old. So I think it's a very valid point that it's an extra motivating factor. And I got the number for you here on the interview. He has played 19 previous times in a first playoff game, either wild card weekend or after the bye in the divisional round. 19 times he's played a first playoff game in the playoffs. He's 16-3, Tom Brady. 16-3 with the New England Patriots, and then the last 2 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they won a home playoff game last year on the wild card weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. Who's going against this guy, Reggie? I mean, he is the GOAT. He's broken all the records. He's won the most Super Bowls. You want to go against this guy if he's upright and he's healthy, which he is, in a home playoff game, in a winner-take-all 60-minute game? Good luck. Good luck going against him.
I keep telling people. I mean, if you go, by the law of averages and based on what he's done in his career and stuff, you'd have to think that advantage Buccaneers are playing at home. They're going to be well rested. But again, the Cowboys are coming in here 12-5, wicked pass rush. But to me, it's going to all come down to do you trust the guy who wears the number 4 on his shirt? Do you trust that guy? That to me is the key question. So let me ask you this. Is it a confident locker room? Is it even though they played a game in Atlanta last week that didn't mean anything to the Bucs, do you sense this week that it's a confident locker room, a confident Bucs locker room?
Yes. I don't think it's arrogance. I mean, look, they've not been good for a lot of these games that they've won, having them out in the fourth quarter. How confident can you be when you keep going to the fourth quarter and you're behind, but you got Brady on your side? Now, they played really good football the whole second half of the Carolina game to come back and win that one in their last home game. So, but you got veteran players, again, not just Brady. You've got the likes of Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette and Levante David, names that the linebacker, Levante David and Devin White, the other linebacker. They were all here for the Super Bowl winning year 2 years ago, and they were all here last year when you won 13 games, you won the division, you won a playoff game. So there is, I would say, playoff confidence. Not just that you're playing the Cowboys, but this team has been there and done that. And again, it bears repeating, before Brady showed up, the Buccaneers had not been in the playoffs for over a decade. Mike Evans didn't know what that was like. Levante David didn't know what that was like. They now know. They have positive reinforcement, and I think that makes a difference.
Let me ask you, you're on with the PR man, the coach talking ball on the BallFather Podcast presented by Sportskeeda. TJ, let me ask you kind of a difficult question here, because this is kind of been out there too. There's been a lot of rumor swirling in case it doesn't go very well, and those surrounding your head coach as they've been kind of out there, the head coach and Byron Leftwich is the offensive coordinator. If this thing doesn't go as well as we think it goes, or we don't get the outcome that all the Bucs fans want, could this be a situation where the Glazers would move on, or what's your take, or what are you hearing with regards to the coach surviving it and Coach Bowles and Leftwich surviving it?
It's kind of been a week-to-week thing late in the year, but how do you make a move? This is world according to TJ, and you worked for these owners, so with the Glazers, and I've worked for them throughout my entire career. It's ultimately up to them. But now that you've won the division and you've gotten the home playoff game, that's huge. for Todd Bowles, for Byron Leftwich. Who knows? But if you win this game Monday, how do you make changes after that with the coaching staff? We'll see. You lived this. You lived this with Tony Dungy at the end of his tenure, and this was a fascinating time because I was here long before you were here, where the Buccaneers couldn't beat anybody. And they had 10-loss season after 10-loss season after 10-loss season. They then became a playoff team. They then began to win a playoff game or two and went to the 99 NFC Championship game. And now you start getting spoiled. Now you start getting entitled. We should be in the Super Bowl. It's not good enough to just be in the playoffs. Not good enough to just be in the playoffs. You didn't sniff the playoffs for a decade and a half in the creamsicle orange. Not good enough to be in the playoffs. So you lived this because you were around Tony Dungy with the rumors swirling that if they don't win a playoff game here, he may be gone. I don't know that we're at that point in year one with Todd Bowles here. They got to the finish line. They got the division win. They got in the playoffs. And again, I don't believe that we're talking about a one-and-done scenario where they lose Monday. Obviously, I don't think that. But even if they do, I don't think there would be a move made on Todd Bowles at this point in his first season because he's proven they could pull out the games they had to win. However you got there, and you won the division.
Well, I'm a big fan of Coach Bowles, and I'm a huge fan of Byron Leftwich because he was with us in Atlanta. So I'm cheering. Obviously, I'm pro Byron and pro Coach. So I just wanted to just sort of get through that. So let me ask you this: as we keep going, there's all this stuff out there too about, we shift gears here a little bit about Sean Payton, where he winds up. As you're connected throughout the league, what are you hearing? What are you hearing about Coach Payton? Where he ends up?
So this is interesting because the first thing is the Saints have to give him permission to talk to different teams because he's still under contract with them, and he sat out for a year, and I think he's got 2 years left on his deal. And the Saints would likely want like a number one pick, Reggie, for him at least in a trade if they were trying to do that. So they have some say-so on who he can talk to. And this could get very interesting because he's allegedly already talked to the Denver Broncos, and he's probably talked to a couple of other teams. But speaking of moves getting made, let's play it out that Dallas loses. Let's play it out that Jerry Jones, who plays musical chairs with his head coaches anyway, decides, okay, I'm going to make another change with Mike McCarthy. Is Sean Payton allowed to talk to the Dallas Cowboys? Will the Saints allow him to talk to the Dallas Cowboys? I don't know. But that's an interesting one to keep on the radar. There are some people that believe that if it doesn't go well for the LA Chargers, if the Chargers lose to the Jaguars, even off a 10-win wildcard season, might they make a move trying to lure Sean Payton to come to LA to work with Justin Herbert, the quarterback? I don't know. So you got some vacancies. I just know New Orleans has some of the cards to play here on who they allow him to talk to, and that's definitely going to be a hot name for sure in the coaching carousel here in January.
Let's sort of switch back to your game, the Monday night game. The Bucs played as well as anybody down the stretch in the second half of that Panthers game. I mean, they were good on defense. They took the ball away. The long passes to Mike Evans, who I think is the most underrated receiver in football. I mean, a guy who's put together 9 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, he's in that company where they're talking about Tim Brown and Jerry Rice, and the guy just kind of quietly goes back and does his work. He's going to be key to this Monday night matchup. He's going to be key to it. I mean, they've got to get him going early.
I agree with you, and that was like heaven to see 3 long touchdowns to Mike Evans in the same game, because I used the phrase on the postgame show, he's not just been hungry for a long ball, he's been starving, and he got 3 of them in that game because Carolina elected to kind of single cover him without a lot of double coverage in that game, and he said, bring it on, let's take it. And I don't know that Dallas will single cover him, whether it's with Trayvon Diggs or whomever on Monday night, but that's a big key. Can the Bucs get a big play or 2 to Mike Evans, including maybe a pass interference as the game goes on a 40 or 50-yard play down the field? He's a big play guy. And to your point, the audience will be fascinated by this. For all the great receivers in the history of the league, you mentioned Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens with the stats. You can go on and on. Tim Brown, like you mentioned, Art Monk, who's in the Hall of Fame, Michael Irvin, who's in the Hall of Fame. None of those guys I just mentioned, none of them began their career with 9 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Now, we agree that the NFL is much more passer-friendly for the quarterback and the receivers in the modern day, in the last 10 or 15 years, than what it used to be. But when you're listing Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens and Art Monk and Michael Irvin and Tim Brown, and they never had 9 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons, Randy Moss, another one, to begin their career, that's pretty impressive. Now, Rice does have the overall record of 11 straight. It just wasn't from the first year. 11 straight is the record, and Mike might get there too in the next couple of years to match Jerry Rice. And whenever you're in that company, it's pretty amazing. He's that good. Expect Dallas to double cover him a lot in the Monday night game.
Well, if that happens, okay, let's just play offensive and defensive coordinator here for a second. If they do that, could we see a heavy dose of playoff Lenny, or where's he been and where's he going on, and what's going on with the Bucs run game?
And Tom Brady loves to throw him the ball. And in the postseason wins, Fournette has been tremendous in 2020 in the 4 postseason wins, including the Super Bowl win over the Chiefs, and even in the 2 postseason games last year with the Eagles, and then even in the loss to the Rams. He was a big-time target out of the backfield for Tom Brady, so you're on to something with playoff Lenny, Lombardi Lenny. Hey, I was in Arizona for Christmas night. He became Santa Claus Lenny or Christmas night Lenny because he had a couple of big catches in that comeback in overtime on Christmas night in Arizona. So we'll see if Leonard Fournette's big. Chris Godwin is another guy to keep an eye on. If they are doubling up Mike Evans, Godwin, off a serious knee injury a year ago, is now all the way back. He caught 100 passes this year in the 17 games. He caught for 1,000 yards. He could be a big weapon on Monday night if they're doubling Evans. If they're trying to stay on Fournette, watch out for 14, Chris Godwin, in this game with the Cowboys.
If he was on any other team, he'd be in the Pro Bowl every year. He's got great hands. He's tough, makes tough catch. He reminds me a little bit of Roddy White from our Falcons days.
And he blocks, and he does the dirty work on blocks. He is a football player all the way around. Love that guy, and it is so neat to see him back from a serious knee injury last November. He began really about October or November, finally looking like the explosive Chris Godwin that we've seen, and that bodes well for the Buccaneers Monday night and maybe beyond, that he looks like that right now at wide receiver.
Let's talk a little bit about the Bucs on the defensive side of the ball. Okay, they got the big guy up front, Vita Vea. But I think the guys who get the most ink are the 2 linebackers. The guy from LSU,
Lavonte David and Devin White, right?
Give me your take on how big a game they've got to have to give the Bucs a chance on Monday night.
It's huge because they're going to be the guys responsible in particular for getting after Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, not only the run game, but if Dak Prescott's looking to throw them the ball, it's going to be 54, David the veteran, and Devin White, who's one of the best, fastest sideline to sideline guys in the NFL tackling. They're going to have a tough tackling assignment against those two. I will just say this to the audience here. Not many teams have run the ball over the last 3 years on Bowles' defense with those guys in the middle. So Dallas more than likely is not going to run it, not going to run it a bunch. They may have a play or two where somebody breaks out, but by and large, they're not going to be ripping off 5 yards, 8 yards a carry on the Buccaneer run defense. And a lot of that has to do with David and White. And let's say this, much like Mike Evans was so starved for playoff opportunities, Lavonte David was here for 9 seasons with no playoffs. And in those 9 seasons, only one of them was a winning season. So you feel good for a lot of people. Feel good for Lavonte David. Very underrated, hard-hitting linebacker. Got a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Back in the playoffs with a 13-win season last year. He's a leader on that defense. Back in the playoffs again. I feel good for my man Lavonte David that he hung in there with the Bucs and it's paid off.
Let me ask you this, TJ, with regards to the back end of the defense. Some people say they're not as good as they've been. They're not as good as they were during the Super Bowl year. They've had some injuries back there. It seems to me that they're playing just a little bit better. I'm thinking they're playing a little bit better. What's your thought and what's the buzz around town about?
Well, they've been injured. Yeah, they've been injured. They haven't been healthy. Carlton Davis is the best cover corner. He hasn't played the last 2 games with Carolina and Atlanta. They rested him up for this one. And he better be ready for CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys one-on-one. The other DB is Jamel Dean, who's a mid-level draft pick who has blossomed into an NFL star, not a household name. They've been thin at safety also. They've been injured and they've been thin at safety. So if there's a vulnerability, it's the Buccaneers secondary here, and Davis and Dean are going to have their hands full covering some guys for the Dallas Cowboys, whether it's Gallup or a couple of the others. Dalton Schultz, the tight end, is a good target too. So Buccaneer back end, you're right, is a question mark here in this game because some teams have thrown the ball. I mean, Carolina was throwing the ball on them in the game at Raymond James Stadium a couple of weekends ago. So let's see if that secondary tightens up some. That'll be a fun matchup with Carlton Davis, who's excellent cover corner, CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys want to get CeeDee Lamb involved early in the game. Let's see if Davis can prevent that.
We're going to finish up here on the PR Man, the coach talking ball on the BallFather Podcast, presented by Sports Kita with my man TJ Rives, sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Bucks Buccaneer Radio Network. You know, if you had to name real quick 3 keys to the game for the offense and 3 keys for the defense for the Bucks to be successful, what do you think they'd be?
Why don't I just give you 3 overall? The first one is the ability to protect Tom Brady, whether he's doing the quick pass thing that we've seen a bunch, or does he take the 5- and 7-step drops? Is Dallas getting to him? Is Micah Parsons getting to him? DeMarcus Lawrence getting to him? Are they able to knock him down, harass him? That's not good. That advantage Cowboys big time. So pass protection on Brady would be one of them. Conversely, can the Buccaneer defense rattle Dak Prescott? You go back to that Washington game again a week ago where they were awful in the first half of that game. He was rattled for whatever reason by the Washington pass rush, throwing bad passes. Can the Bucs front 7 rattle Dak Prescott, maybe even into an early turnover or 2? Prescott ended up tied for the NFL in interceptions. And by the way, he became the first quarterback, negative stat here. Reggie was never into the negative stats in PR for a team. But Prescott became the first quarterback in the history of the NFL since the schedule expanded to 16 or 17 games to have 17 or more interceptions in a season where you missed at least 5 games. He missed 5 games. He threw 17 picks, and a lot of them late in the year. So does Dak Prescott turn the ball over? That is enormous. And I think the bigger thing for the Buccaneers is play a clean game. If they are not turning the ball over, if they are not committing penalties to help the Cowboys out, they have a great chance to win. A great chance to win this game and move on. And bear, maybe key number 4, bear in mind, if this is close, Tom Brady has repeatedly pulled out the Rams game, the Monday Night Saints game, the game in Arizona while within a touchdown in the final minutes or the final minute. If it is close and Brady has the ball, advantage Buccaneers, because we've seen it over and over again, even at 45 years of age. Reggie, this is ridiculous stuff. Nobody plays quarterback in the NFL into their mid-40s. Tom Brady is doing it. We are watching something that you really may not see again here at 45 with zip on the ball and having success. Let's see what happens. You know,
you just think about that. I mean, the Cowboys could play a game. It's 23-20, and Brady's got the ball at the 30-yard line with 2 timeouts, and the ball. Are you
good
serious?
Luck.
Good luck.
Good
luck with that. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, it's like again, we were talking yesterday. Who do you bet against a guy who is going into this week? He reads the paper. He says he doesn't, but he reads the paper. They all read. They read the paper. He knows that the Bucs are the Bucs are an underdog for this week, and knowing him, he's a guy who prides himself on the attention to detail, prides himself on being knowing where everybody's gonna be, and prides himself on being a winner. So I'm thinking the motivation factor is going to be a huge thing, which basically sort of to me gives the Buccaneers an advantage in this game on Monday night.
And now you're at home. And you're with a Dallas team that has traditionally played tight in December and January games. Dak Prescott has traditionally played poorly for whatever it's worth in the home game with San Francisco last year that they lost. And San Francisco's defense had a lot to do with that. Yeah. But, I mean, you have a large enough sample size right now on Dak Prescott that he's had problems in January games and in playoff games, including last week. Does it continue, Double R, on Monday night? We will find out.
You know what? I think you're right on that. We're gonna finish up here in a second. I just want to get your take on one or two of the other games. The one other game that I'd love to get your take on is what I've called my upset special. It's going to take place at U.S. Bank Field in Minneapolis.
Ooh.
Okay, everybody.
Unknowingly, now we should say this to the audience. You and I did not rehearse this, but unknowingly, people have been asking me if there's one upset, what is it? And you're saying Giants maybe to upset the Vikings?
Yes, I'm saying that, and I'm going to give you the reason. I'm going to give you the reason why. I'm a huge fan of guys from my native Louisiana. Okay, huge fan of that. I'm just a fan of Fournette. I'm a huge fan of Justin Jefferson, who's from my native Louisiana. Okay, good a receiver in football. Maybe had as great a year as any receiver who's had in football this season. Okay, and they've got some gaudy stats. They've got Dalvin Cook, who's a great player. They got the Adam Thielen, who's a great player. They picked up the tight end from the Lions midseason. I can't think of his name.
Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson, yes.
Picked him up in the middle of the season. They've had and Cousins was played out of his mind this year. He really did play well. Threw for 4,600 yards. The problem is they can't stop anybody.
Correct.
And had the Vikings, had the Giants had a little bit more time in that game they played late in the year, had they had a little bit more time, they probably would. I don't think. Here's what I think. I think Minnesota. I think the Giants figure out a way to slow that high octane offense down. And
you know that I'm a big fan of all things pop culture movies, and I even go way back. Remember the black and white movies? Now we're aging ourselves. The Gen Zers, the millennials, the under 30-year-olds, they have no idea what we're talking about. But the black and white movies, they would always run the previews before the movies, and you would see these from time to time where it would say, "Be afraid" on the screen in big letters. "Be very afraid!" Exclamation point, exclamation point. Be very afraid of the Giants playing very well and messing it up for the Vikings, because they just saw them, like you mentioned, on Christmas Eve, and they were winning a lot of that game. Right. And what Brian Daboll has found is a formula where if Daniel Jones doesn't make key mistakes, doesn't make interceptions, he's a mobile quarterback, they're not a big play team, but just stay away from the mistakes. Use Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. Opportunistic defense. I know that the Vikings made NFL history. Here we are again quoting stats on the show, Double R. No team in the NFL has ever won 11 one-score games in the same NFL season until the 2022 Vikings. 11 one-score games. But as you know, Double R, sooner or later that bites you. And in a playoff situation, it can bite you, where you're down to a one-score game and you don't make the key play or don't make the kick, and the other team makes the key plays, makes the field goal, gets the go-ahead touchdown. I think the Giants, if you're looking for an upset, the Giants are right there to upset the Vikings. I know they got big plans in the Great White North about NFC title game, right. First-year coach, Kevin O'Connell, he looks the part, the whole bit, but I think the Giants could mess this up for them Sunday afternoon. I agree with you.
I completely agree. And then just the other upset special, I think Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville, down in Duval County. Duval.
Yep.
Let's talk about a guy who kind of came into his own this year. I mean, he played his body down the stretch. They didn't play great, but he played great. He didn't play real good the other night against the Titans, but he played well enough to win, and the defense got involved late. It's the playoffs. It doesn't matter how you win, but I like Jacksonville this weekend. Any thoughts on that one?
And Doug Peterson, a playoff experienced coach, having won the Super Bowl in Philadelphia. Another Louisiana guy, ULM, right? And so I love that about him, Louisiana Monroe. He is a Super Bowl winning coach, and it's not an accident. I mean, obviously, the Urban Meyer thing, he was a radioactive disaster as the coach. And now you do a 180 to Doug Peterson, who understands NFL veterans and understands the situation, has got the best out of Trevor Lawrence. I love that game Saturday night. I think it's going to be a wild game. And Jacksonville has had a lot of playoff success in the past. They were in the playoffs last in 2017, so it's been 6 years. But they're going to be amped up. That's a great game. That's a great game for Jacksonville and the Chargers, who are good with Justin Herbert. I'm looking forward to that one, too. I have to wait all the way till Monday night, Double R, before the Bucs take the field. So I get to take all this in Saturday and Sunday, and then we finally get Monday night wild card playoff game, Buccaneers-Cowboys.
Listen, thank you so much for joining us, man. We'll check and see if we can get you back. Have a great broadcast on Monday. We'll probably talk once or twice before then, but hey, give the missus my best and beautiful daughters. We'll do this again soon, man. Thanks so much for joining Sportskeeda.
Listen, it is great to be with you, and you did great as the interviewer. You taught me well on all this, and now you did it. You put it all into practice as the interviewer. I'm honored to be on with Double R on the show. Thank you, and let's see what happens with the Buccaneers and the Cowboys, and I will be back with you whenever you want me. You just
have a great day, man. Take care. Thanks. Talk soon.
Good to be with you, Double R.